Hello and welcome. I'm Jenny Hall. Thanks for joining me for another Christmas ornament tutorial. The next ornament that I have in my tutorial series is creating a birdhouse with a red bird and a greenery spray that is perfect for any kind of Christmas decor. I'm going to use the layering ovals, birds and blooms, and there's also pretty pines. All of these items together are going to be used with the Home Sweet Home Thinlits dies to create the look of the birdhouse. I have already cut all of the cardstock out in advance. I'm also going to use some sponge daubers, and I'll also use some Q-tips to get the ink onto some really small areas. I'm going to use crumb cake cardstock, and I have already pre-cut one of the houses out from Home Sweet Home Thinlits dies. Leaving this edge allows me to fold it over and create a three-dimensional look. Not quite three-dimensional, maybe more of two-dimensional, but I want it to appear as if this little house is definitely coming off of the ornament base. I'm using a sponge dauber with crumb cake ink to give all of the edges an enhancement. This is going to help the edges of the colored cardstock stand out from the other colors of cardstock in the same project. Using my sponge dauber, I always make a practice to remove the first high intensity bit of ink and put it onto a little scratch paper. That's why I dab it off on the side. Using one of the circles from the Home Sweet Home Thinlits dies, I die cut a hole that would be the circle, the entrance for the birdhouse, and I gave that a much darker coat of the sponging because I want it to appear recessed and shadowed inside of the birdhouse. Pretty Pines has many different pine cones to choose from, and I have chosen two different ones, and I gave them all a nice bit of that same crumb cake. Here is where I use the Q-tip. Using a regular sponge dauber would also be okay. However, I find that oftentimes with very small die cuts that have very thin lines, they can break or bend, and that's not going to be something I am looking for stability in a paper craft project. So I'll use a Q-tip to get into the places that are those small places, and that works really well. I'm using a white bird to make the die, and I put it there as a comparison against the one out of red cardstock. The white cardstock allows a variance, and just doing it out of solid red would work really well if you don't want to add coloring to the bird yourself. Oftentimes, a project like this for someone that is color challenged or for somebody that doesn't have all of their ability to see, this is a little easier because you can choose how much sponging you put on your own project. So if you struggle with your eyesight, then perhaps this would be a type of a card or an ornament that you can create that will be a little bit more friendly for a finished project. I'm using a lot of those mini glue dots to adhere a lot of these pieces down together. Sometimes glue dots are more successful for me than liquid glue. Just because I'm very messy with the liquid glue, I tend to use glue dots instead. Working with the placement on the design, I'm choosing where I'd like to have the bow, and I want to have the bird appear in the entrance of the birdhouse. The base to the ornament is created with soft suede cardstock with a piece of Whisper White cardstock attached to it with snail adhesive. And I'm using a handheld hole punch or handheld circle punch to create the hanging area for the ornament. Teeny Tiny Wishes has this lovely little small greetings that work well on many different projects. I am stamping onto a piece of shimmery white cardstock that will be nice and shimmery, and it will grab the eye. I've created a fishtail end to it by snipping it at the end with my paper snips. This is one way that you can create an attractive look to a small piece of paper with the sentiment and doesn't take a lot of effort. When threading the 1/8 inch Whisper White bow ribbon, then sometimes I just use my paper piercing tool to poke that ribbon through. I'm hoping that tip will help you in your crafting as well. Topped off with a few sequins, this is a complete project. I would love to hear if you have any success with creating paper ornaments on your own. You can share ideas by visiting my blog at jennystampsup.com. Also, while there, you can subscribe to my blog to get daily updates in your email. Thank you so much for joining me for this tutorial, and thank you for choosing me as your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I truly appreciate your support. I'll see you in the next video.
Hi, my name is Trip. Thanks for watching the video. See you next time.